Okay, imagine this. You travel to Mexico to write a story, you black out, and then you wake up tied to a bed while a creepy lady waves an egg over your forehead. Not exactly a traveler blog moment. Today, we're diving headfirst into an indie horror film called The Old Ways. A horror film that throws demons, heritage, and identity into a blender, sprinkling in some goat milk. Good thing is this one's actually kind of creepy. It's weirdly empowering, and low-key, it kind of slaps. Today, I'm going to be walking you through the whole thing, what worked, what kind of didn't work, and why this might be one of the better indie horror films you've never heard of. Before we get into that though, welcome back to the channel. My name is Cinegoon, and today we're doing another installment of Was It Good? Now in the last video, I noticed that I didn't really go too much into the film, and today I'm actually going to try to delve a little bit deeper into it from the beginning. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment on your thoughts of The Old Ways and possibly other recommendations that I could do. With all that being said though, let's go ahead and figure out if The Old Ways was it good? A low-budget horror flick that blends demonic possession into Mexican folklore. I'll break down what worked, what kinda worked, and stick around because I've got some thoughts on the oddly satisfying character arc and the demon that really didn't get much screen time. Let me take you to the opening scene. We are greeted into what looks like a small Spanish town where a woman looks like she is being exorcised. This mother is calming her child, telling her not to be afraid. Then she switches up and the demon shows his fangs. Literally. Then we are taken to a shack in the middle of a jungle where we meet our protagonist, Christina. Christina wakes up chained to a bed inside of a tight, dingy room. She is a journalist returning to Veracruz to investigate the caves in La Boca. Apparently though, when she was found, the locals think she might have brought something evil with her. Within a few seconds, however, we are introduced to the bruja, Luz. She comes into the room, stares into Christina's eyes, and tells Javi, her helper, that she has it. Javi then, in response, goes to grab a jug and starts pouring goat's milk down her throat, which, mind you, was disgusting because, well, you can take a look. She starts asking for her bag, which Javi doesn't really listen to until she brings up her cousin's name, Miranda. Based off of Javi's response, it seems like they know who Miranda is, and he kind of just storms off. After a few scenes, Miranda does find her way there, and the first thing she wants to know is, why was Christina in La Boca? Which, fun fact of La Boca, it is known as the Cave of Bats. Christina just states it's her job, given that she is a journalist from America, and she's trying to find out a little bit more information about the caves. Miranda, knowing the lore of La Boca, she exclaims her frustration with Christina, stating, "I told you not to go. It's not safe." Then after a little bit of banter between the two, Miranda eventually tells Christina that she has a demon inside her. Obviously, she thinks it's bullshit and just wants to get out of there. We jump to the next scene where it's that night, and Christina starts to notice this boy outside of the door. As she's trying to speak to the boy, he eventually runs off, and then we notice that there is a rooster in the room, which is actually kind of a cute little guy. As the night continues, we then figure out why Christina wanted her bag. We learn inside of her bag that she has a little carrying case, and after opening it, find out that she has a little bit of mommy sauce. After grabbing the arm sauce, you kind of wonder how, if she has this addiction, how does nobody know? Then we're led to her actually using it, and it's not in her arm, it's in her ankle. Like, what? As she starts to spiral from the sauce, she eventually falls on the floor. Then we're cut to Christina waking up and she's covered in markings of blood with the bruja and Javi chanting around her, performing some kind of ritual. Pretty much what they're trying to do is they're trying to have Christina see the demon. It's one of the rituals based off of a visual earlier where along the wall inside of the room is a bunch of markings. Luz then instructs that if you see the demon, then to let her know. As a few minutes pass, Christina tries to fake seeing the demon. Nobody comes, obviously, and then all of a sudden, two little guys come slithering through the window. There are these two snakes that slowly start to make their way over to Christina. She is visibly uncomfortable. She starts to call out for help, but just like the boy who cried wolf, nobody really comes, and Christina starts to get the reality of the situation in the moment, with one of the snakes slithering up her torso, getting closer to her face. Us as the viewers kind of get that visual of discomfort. But before anything were to actually ever happen, Javi then comes to save the day with a potato sack and grabs the two little guys and pulls them away. Within the same sentence, Luz, the bruja, then puts her palm onto Christina's torso where the blood is and marked one of the signs on the wall, the two squiggly lines to signify the two snakes. I'm assuming this is done just to start to break down what type of demon it is. Kind of like phasmophobia, if you know what I'm saying. Each thing matters to figure out what type of demon it could be. Then we jump to the next scene where Christina is cleaning herself off and the area. While she has the time, she then gets another hit of the ankle sauce. As she's starting to float, she's starting to get glimpses of her past, some recent in regards to the forest where La Boca was, and also back to the woman in the beginning, assuming that that's actually her mother. Then as she's starting to float onto her little dream high little land, her blanket gets yanked off of her. She sobers up in a matter of a moment, and as she looks over towards the blanket, she sees that there's this blood stain coming through the material. She makes her way over, and then she finds out that underneath the blanket is that rooster from earlier. Kind of frustrating. I thought that was going to be the guy. The next morning, everyone is kind of confused on how Christina didn't even know what happened. Christina saying that she was sick, and that Miranda assuming that it was bad goat's milk. The next scene then jumps over to Miranda bringing Christina books so she can read on the type of demons that she is encountering that could possibly be inside of her. Also the books that are going over the rituals, and as she starts actually delving into these, the demon starts to toy with her a little bit. She's reading around with a bunch of candles around her, and they slowly start to go out one by one. The film makes you think that it's the fan that's next to her. However, once she turns the fan off, the candle in front of her still is going out. Then as Christina reads, she figures out that the type of demon inside of her is called a pataki. As she says it out loud, however, all of the candles start going out one by one, leading to a dark corner in the room. Christina then notices that there's something in the corner. As she gets up to go and check, she has this little lighter, which is really funny. She walks closer to the corner. The camera kind of pans to the corner, pans back to Christina, pans to the corner, and at one moment you see these two floating eyes, which is actually a really nice touch, giving you kind of the little bit of a scare, like, ooh, I'm here. What are you gonna do about it? Then the next morning, we jump to the next ritual where they tie Christina up onto this rolling bed. As they do so, Luz then starts feeling around Christina's stomach. She pierces her little grubs into Christina's stomach, literally pulls out this black tumor looking thing. Then she puts it on this table, cuts it open, which was disgusting to see. Out comes teeth. Then Luz states that there's more, goes back for seconds to then pull out this black rope looking thing. Javi then comes over to help. They're struggling to get it out. Their hands slip, I'm assuming from all the blood, and the snake then just goes right back up. I could just feel it, just disgusting. Then we cut to after, and you can visibly see that Christina's getting kind of beat up. She's throwing up, and they sewed up where her hands were inside of her stomach. Then she starts to go through her stuff again. Some of that ankle sauce could really help right now. She find out that it's all gone. Christina, being frustrated, then sits on the side of the bed and starts to notice that one of these dolls in the opposite corner of where she is starts to shake. It ends up being a rat. In a moment's flash, the rat's there, and then the rat's in her hands, crushed. I don't know. Obviously, it's the demon controlling her. She then throws the rat, screams. Javi comes to help. With Javi being distracted, Christina then stabs Javi with a needle. I'm assuming a used needle at that. And then she starts to choke him with a rope, damn near killing the guy. As he's knocked out, Christina then grabs his keys, unlocks her chains, locks her chains onto Javi, starts to run out of the building. In my opinion, this is probably the best visual of the film. As she's trying to leave, there's kind of like an invisible wall, an invisible barrier, if you will. The sound effects that they have in this moment is so good. Visuals really represent what a salt line could do to somebody who is possessed. As the realization hits Christina, she starts gagging and throwing up hair. As she's throwing up the hair, she looks up. Luz is there. Without a beat of a second, she asks if she wants some milk. We then find ourselves in the kitchen where Luz then serves her milk. Javi walks in. I was very surprised because I thought this guy died. Thank goodness he didn't, because he's one of the likable people here. Christina and Javi then have a heart-to-heart. We find out that in the past, Luz exorcised her husband, aka Javi's father, and it didn't really go out so well. He ended up dying. After that, Javi declared himself that after his mother passes away, the old ways die with her. After hearing the story, it seems it really kicks Christina in the butt to take it seriously. Maybe it's for Javi, or possibly because she doesn't want to die. Regardless though, she cleans up her room, she starts to read up more on the books, then she starts doing a little bit more research on the actual rituals. She starts reminiscing on the two that's already been done, and Javi, being skeptical, states that they can't do it and it'll put her into a lot of pain. However, Christina is open for it and she wants it to work. The next scene, they start preparing for the ritual. Luz is rubbing what looks like ash over Christina's skin, and this is actually where we find out the bruja's actual name is Luz. So if anybody was kind of confused on when the name dropped, it was towards the middle of the film. We then jump to the ritual, and this shit looks crazy. They have this little triangle thing to represent the two hands and the feet. Luz then is hammering two sides in. You could see Christina's hands, they get nailed to the ground. And as this happens, Luz then uses a death whistle, which this pisses this demon off. She kind of loses herself then, and back to La Boca. Mentally, as she walks, she finds this little sticky note that says, "Don't let me die." She looks up and sees the boy again. She starts to follow him. As she's following him, she finds her dead body, or what seems to be her dead body, and looks over and sees this demon guy. He claws down on her face. Christina then wakes up with a fucking slash down her face. She then states that she's seen it. They also ask what else she's seen, and she saw the boy. Christina then explains that she's been seeing this boy, and as she looks up, she sees the boy in the doorway. The boy then opens his mouth, and you see these, what looks like demonic teeth. He then runs off, and the door shuts behind him. As that happens, you kind of get a little bit of a quiet spell. They notice this arm underneath the bed, pull it over, then smoke starts to appear from candles. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this thing kind of just takes off way too fast and finishes way too quick. As the smoke starts to appear around the room, you see Luz with their staff. She starts slamming it in front of her, telling the demon to leave over and over. You then see that she gets kind of weak, and she looks back to Javi to kind of give like a send-off. And as she looks down, looking weak, you start to see this heart starting to manifest itself. Luz then does this anime judo grab and grabs the heart, tells him to leave, and then there's this explosion, and you get this really nice aerial view. Then we're in the next day. Everything is fine. I don't know. The pacing is really strange of this film. As we're in the next day, Javi is prepping Luz to be buried. Christina then has a bandage wrapped around her like snake. Not only is she able to leave, but you can see that she is visibly better. Javi buries Luz, and then Christina and Miranda are at the table drinking milk, talking about what Christina's next plans are. She gets a phone call from her boss, so she leaves the room. Miranda is then left alone, and then you come to find out that earlier in the film, Christina scratched Miranda. Now, after this really shows, it starts to click with you that the demon is not gone. As this is found out, Christina then comes back into the room to finish talking with Miranda, finds out she's not at the table anymore. Christina then makes her way over to the room where she was, and Miranda is standing there. Miranda, being possessed for a moment, then states to Christina that she can do the ritual. She's done it. She read the books, she understands, even though she doesn't believe Miranda does. As they're having this conversation, Christina sees a shadow figure walk past the door. Christina then goes to follow it. You get a flash of muddy footprints on the floor. Christina follows it just to see that it's Luz. She's leading Christina over to her ritual tools, then accepts her fate and prepares herself for the ritual, which she looks badass to do this. After she's prepared, they then start the ritual. As Christina starts reading from the book, Miranda then freaks out on her. Miranda being the demon that's now possessing her, and Christina then does the upside down man ritual. She starts hammering the nails into the triangle, and Miranda's hands get pinned to the ground. As this goes on, Christina then finds out that the demon is much more powerful than we thought. He is only getting joy out of this because he needs his vessel to be weak and broken. As she brings this to attention, you then see the nails float out of the triangle. As this happens, the demon then leaves her body, starts attacking Miranda, and then they chase after the demon. They then get free. The demon runs loose. However, the demon can't leave give the salt lines at the door. Before they leave, however, Christina then knows that given that this demon has followed her whole life, the demon is going to find them again. They're scarred by the scratches on their arms. She then does this walk towards the demon and says the most dreadful line I have ever heard in cinema history.
I'm a motherfucking bruja.
This movie had my attention, had my love, had everything until this stupid line. All you needed to do is add bitch at the end, and then you would be the talk of the town. After this happens, however, they kill the demon. Then we learn that Christina's accepted her role as the local bruja now and is brought an American tourist so she can take a look. Long story short, you find out it's her boss. She does what Luz did to her. She walks over, stares into her boss's eyes to find out he also has it in. Then the film ends. It's crazy to me how the whole film kind of just happens. I mean, we're talking scene to scene, moment to moment. Everything happens so fast. I think that one of the better uses of the budget, which to qualify this as low budget, it had a $3 million budget. When The Exorcist had a budget of $12 million, that was filmed in one house. So given the budget restraints and what they had to offer, I think this film really brought home the scares that I personally would like out of an indie film. What I liked immediately about the film, however, was the setting. I really enjoyed that the fact this whole film really does just take place in one room. It gives you the idea of what type of environment Christina is put through, and also it gives you a better look into what a struggling addict could go through, especially under these circumstances. I'm not saying being possessed is a normal circumstance, however, it is a good visual for that. Between the candles, the shadows, and the fact that no one really owns a lamp here, the setting was really tight. I mean, I liked it a lot. It gives you that sense of isolation. They're in the middle of a jungle. I mean, how more isolated could you get? Then there's the pacing. The movie really gets into the nitty-gritty. It doesn't really give us viewers kind of the love you want to get into creating these relationships into these characters. However, they do a really good job on the pacing. It's very consistent, and it's not really focused on one thing. kind of. Each scene has its own story, and they all kind of wrap together towards the end anyways. The paranormal stuff is pretty spooky. I mean, they're not really jump scare heavy until the last frame of the film, but other than that, I mean, they really do create that suspense for us on the long pauses and then something happening. However, it's not a face jumping up at you. Talking about the blanket that got pulled off of Christina earlier in the film, it wasn't really jump scary outside of the noise. It really is just a blanket getting pulled off of somebody. I did like it, and given that it was an American director, not a Mexican director, I do think they did a really good job on bringing a little bit of light to Mexican Hispanic folklore. Other than the janky CGI with this demon, I think they did kind of create a really good story around it. However, I really wish we got a little bit more time on how it all happened. Given that her mother was the one who kind of started all of this BS, I really would have liked to known how that happened. They didn't give that to us though, but I do think they really did a good job on packaging this whole thing. Now, even though I said that the pacing was okay, I do think the pacing was way too fast.
What?
I mean, some scenes were as short as less than a minute, and most of the time, it really makes you think that they could have used their time a little bit better other than jumping to a new scene every few moments. I think that the film altogether is a really good watch. If you and your loved one want to get a little spooky, why not give it a shot? It's on Netflix, and I personally think it's definitely worth everybody's time. Just remember that the ending really is okay, we're finished, now get out. Now that we're at the end here, if you've stayed this long, go ahead and like the video. It helps out a lot. And while you're down there, why don't you go ahead and comment? I'm going to be doing some film reviews based off of your guys' recommendations. Maybe you could recommend something I've never seen, or we can just take a stroll down memory lane together and I can give you my input, whether it is mediocre or subpar. Also, don't forget to subscribe, guys. I'm going to be putting out videos every single Monday, and I would love to start creating a community so we all can kind of get together, watch some movies, and get weird with it. Anywho, I've been Cinegoon. I'll see you guys later. Later! Oh yeah, and one more thing. Thank you guys for watching the last video. As I'm recording this, we're at about 240 views. Crazy. If you guys want to watch it, go ahead and click right here. All right, guys. Thanks.